My name is Shiv. I'm going to explain in this video about object-oriented programming. In short, we call as OOP. Before starting, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I have been graduated in computer science and engineering. I have been working in IT industry for last 10 years and been involved in multiple type of product development cycle. I am a agile practitioner. These are my contacts, email address, phone number and LinkedIn where you can reach out to me for any kind of clarifications and questions. This is my agenda. I'm going to explain what is OOPS, then we will come to why object-oriented programming is required. I will use the terminology as OOP here on to replace object-oriented programming in short for simplicity. So what I'm going to explain in this video is that is first one I will start with what is OOP, then why OOP, then I will tell you a little bit history about OOP, then I will go to the detailed concepts of OOP, and in last I will explain what are the programming languages that support OOP. So let's start with with something called what is OOP. OOP is the concept which is based on object. What is the object? Object is nothing but anything what you see around you that has some properties, you can say characteristics or attributes, and that object performs some activities on those attributes. For example, college, you have a college, you can take college as a object which has some attributes like name, location, and type of the building, type of education, what affiliation it has, in which which university it has affiliation to. These are the few properties, and there are few action. It does some admission, it does teaching, it does placement, and a lot of stuff. So these are the some activity that college object performs. But you have something called body object also. Your whole body you can call as a object because it has a lot of attributes like your hands, your mouth, nose, hair, mind, and it performs some activities like it touches, it smells. So this is also a object. In fact, any part of body itself you can say as a object which may have some certain kind of attributes and and performing some activities on that. Say suppose your hand is the object. It has say fingers, it has some color, it has length, it has how many what is the, and it has some sorts of activities. The movement is the activity. Your hand does some movement, your hand does some finger movements. So these are the some activity that it performs. So this is also example of object. OOP is a non-procedural approach which is a called modular approach. Modular approach means you can think of like objects, and you can club those objects to make a model. So if you are thinking of a big problem, or if you are thinking of a big project, or say big system where you can divide the whole system into different modules. So object oriented programming or OOPS, it will give you a opportunity to think in the direction of modules. So the modular way will help you to achieve the things easily. So it provides model based on the real world problem. So increase flexibility and maintainability of the program. So if you have big program where you can divide whole program into different modules, so working on each module will be easy and you can easily maintain, and that's very much flexible. Why? Because you can work on an individual module, and slowly you can move to next one, and once you complete you can move next one. So that is very much flexible and maintainable. Communication among objects. Any system where you have a lot of objects, they need to communicate among them. Without communication, the purpose of application cannot be fulfilled. What does communication mean here? Here, sending the message to and from the object. Sequential operation. OOP is a sequential operation. So object A, there are say set of objects in a program or in a project or in a module. Those objects communicate to one another. So object A sends message 1 to object B, B sends message 2 to object C, object C sends message 3 to object D, D returns message 4 to C, and C returns message 5 to B, and B returns message 6 to A, object A. So you can see that it is a certain communication is happening to make this flow working. So we have got like what is object here. Let's move to the why object. Sorry, why OOP. So why OOP means why do we need object oriented programming model? Why not something else? Why it is better than other model, other programming model? So why it is, first reason is like human thinks everything as an object. Suppose you are thinking of a problem, you are thinking of your own house, you are thinking of your school, you are thinking of your book, you are thinking of your pen. So everything that you are thinking as an object. It means that whatever you are thinking, it has certain attribute and it performs some kind of activities. So human thinks as an object. So that's reason it is pretty much mapping to this concept. It implements object-oriented analysis and design. What does it mean? It means that you are grouping a lot of objects to design a module and to analyze your object while designing them. So this OOPS concept is going to help into doing analysis and design, which is object-oriented. It uses objects as its fundamental building blocks. So suppose you are making a modules, so you are clubbing few objects to make your building blocks. So you are thinking elementary and then summing up them all and making something bigger. But your fundamental is still based on the objects only. Associates data structure with its operator which act upon it. Suppose you are doing some operation between two objects. You are trying to do some equal. You are trying to suppose, for example, you are trying to compare few objects, one object to another one. So while comparing is the operation, and you might be using some operator greater than or less than. That is the operator. So while applying those operator on those objects, object-oriented programming uses data structure to give the result of those comparison. This is the another reason why we should go for object-oriented programming. And most important thing is like this is a solution of procedural approach, procedural programming. So before OOPS, there was programming model kind which was called procedural programming model. So where whole program was designed top to bottom. So it is going step by step from top, next, then middle, then bottom. So this is that was the procedural approach. The issue was with that kind of approach was low software maintenance. If you are skipping any steps in your procedure, it can mess up whole program. And of course, if it is you're going top to bottom approach, it is taking more time than if you go for object-oriented programming. Change made to the main procedure top may impact all procedures in the pyramid. So suppose in the pyramid you are having on top some programs, and those are used by their callers, and their methods will be used by their callers, and so on. So if you are changing something in that pyramid, means in your steps, in your flow, something you change, then it may impact the others. So this is not a modular approach of doing the programming. So OOP basically helps to eliminate these kind of complexities and make the solution in the simpler way, where you can think of everything in an object, building blocks and modules. There are other few reasons why we go for OOP. It insists that you think what to expose to outside world. Suppose you are thinking of your object. Here you have capability to restrict the properties of the object, what I should show outside of object, what I should not. So that concept is provided by OOP. It also allows to have many different functions with the same name doing different jobs. So suppose you have add method which is taking many parameters, or which is taking some strings which are taking some float value, double value, where you are trying to add two strings, means adding two strings means you are doing the concatenation of those two strings. Suppose you are taking my name is first parameter is Shiv, second parameter is Prasad, and you are doing concatenation, that you will get the result of Shiv Prasad. Same time you are adding two integers like 3 and 5, you will get the result of 8. So here suppose I say there is one method called addition, where you are parsing different kind of parameters. So you have multiple methods with the same name, but they are performing different kind of they are taking different kind of arguments and trying to give a result which is the addition of those parameters. So this feature we call as a polymorphism in OOP. Next one is it allows generic code. So by using object-oriented programming, you can go for writing the generic code, where you will write once and which will be implemented and read many times, where you have centralized piece of code that is written in very much generic, which is helping other program to go for their own implementation. So that way OOP will help. It allows to write a set of function that spans from them in that spends them in different direction without changing or copying them in the way. So suppose you have this concept we call the inheritance. Suppose you have certain properties of a object and you want to inherit that in your own object. That one you can do in OOPs. So whatever properties you have in parent object, that will be inherited to the child, and child can has their own implementation also. And because of this inheritance, it uses the component reusability. So reusability is very important feature of OOP. OOP history. We are using OOPs from last many years. We have used OOPs in C, and now we are using Java, a lot of other programming languages which are also supporting OOPs. But first time in 1960 we called as a first object language. Till that time we have not given the name as a object oriented language. It was just object language. That was Samuel, the name of that language, and that was used for simulation of the machines. From this use of those language, that name was given as Samuel. The term object oriented programming was first used by Xerox company in their Smalltalk programming language. So you can say that Xerox was the first company which gave the name as object oriented programming. And nowadays we are extensively using this concept almost in every industry, not necessarily IT industry, maybe in manufacturing and other kind of industry also. There we are thinking of every problem as every module as a set of objects and trying to achieve the things by building the blocks and modules. Elements. OOPS has two main elements. One is class, one is object. Object and class, everything is inside the OOPS is moving around these two elements, object and class. If you see this picture, what is class? Class here is a pictorial way of showing the object. So if you see here class, we have class student, name, it has name as attribute, roll number as attribute, and two methods, set name and set roll number. The purpose of set name is setting the name of the student, and purpose of set roll number is setting the roll number of the student. And what is the object here? Object is an instance of the class. So if you see the object here, Gina, John, Maria, James, these are names, and R05, 010, R029, R0009, these are their roll number. So every object is the instance of class, and class is the pictorial way of presenting the object. If you see here, there is something called class as a car, where you have object 1, object 2, object 3. So you can say that car 1, car 2, car 3. So car is the instance of car, object is the instance of car class. In the right example, if you see that healthcare professional, this is the object, healthcare professional. ENT is also one kind of healthcare of professional, nurse, medical doctor, pharmacist, surgeon, radiologist, and pediatrician. So these are the they belong to a class, and object is instance of the class.